Thank you for joining today. This is the first of a series of 3 webinars on balance assessment. Today is ELA and Math. Other content area will be following at different times. I think on Wednesday there was one about PSAT, SAT, or Access. So more information will be given to you during one of these slides later on. So what is a balanced assessment system? Yep. So in 2015, when the Every Student Success Act, or ESSA, was established, it emphasized the need for a balanced assessment system. We are defining a balanced assessment system, or shortcut for BAS, as a set of interconnected assessment that meets the needs of all educational stakeholders for the common purpose of improving education. A balanced assessment system provides accurate and timely information about student achievement and learning to individual students, teachers, school, and district administrators, but as well as local, state, and federal policymakers. More importantly, they encourage and support learning by helping students and teachers to see that the continued effort will result in success. So when you utilize accurate day-to-day classroom assessment added with quality curriculum and instruction decision, along with a balanced, high-quality standardized test, you have a balanced assessment system that will effectively promote student learning. And this is probably not new to you, but often we miss one piece and the whole balanced assessment seems to fall apart. So as another graphic, this graphic shows the balanced assessment system model for the state of Delaware. You will notice each assessment type is color-coded for clarity and how each is integrated. The formative and the benchmark assessment are assessment for learning, where the interims and the summative, including the state testing, are assessment of learning. At the bottom, you can also see the frequency of these assessments. So formative goes from daily, because it's in a classroom, to benchmark, not as multiple times a year, interims less often, and then statewide once a year. So this is a very good graphic that you want to be aware, and you can print, and it's available on the DOE website. So now let's define the type of assessment. We're talking about formative, benchmark, interim, and statewide, but let's remind ourselves what each type of assessment is and for what purpose. So the formative assessment is defined as a multi-step interactive process in which the students and the teacher engage in instructional activities. They gather evidence of learning, and they use feedback to adjust teaching and improve learning in real time. I don't know if it's me who's making the noise, but someone is giving some feedback. So these formative assessments are ongoing, and they're used daily to focus the lesson plans and individual student needs. So the formative assessments are administered, or formative assessment processes are administered by teachers only for the explicit purpose of diagnosing where the students are in their learning and where the gaps in the knowledge and understanding exist. They are small scale and minute by minute to provide immediate feedback during instruction. So it's really during the classroom. It's an ongoing minute to minute and teacher can really act upon student reaction to the content. However, on the other hand, you have the next level of assessment or benchmark and interim assessment. Now, a benchmark assessment are for recently taught material for grades that is to monitor the progress toward the learning goals and that are given by the classroom teachers. While the interim assessment are general achievement measures to monitor the progress toward the end of year goals, and they identify student or curricular areas needing additional attention, and the content covers the full year standards. As I mentioned earlier, both are used multiple times of year. They have to be carefully planned. They can be district interim assessment. They can be school assessment. It's up to all of you, but the more of a consensus you have, the more data you can share and have common, better discussion in PRC, because you'll be using the same assessment, so you can have a more impact on as a group, and you can help each other. So these benchmark and interim assessment are designed to serve instructional purposes, and they should they should provide results that enable the educators to adapt curriculum or better meet the student needs. Then the last type of assessment is a summative assessment. A summative assessment in a classroom are intended to check what students know and can do that demonstrates what they have acquired over a longer period of time, and they are not based on instruction that just took place. These assessments are used for grading purposes. Summative assessment at the state level may be used for accountability purposes, and we do have the smaller balance assessment. But they're also a great source of information for educators in understanding their student performance to help guide instruction. So summative are assessment of learning rather than the assessment for learning as formative are. So the distinction between the two is important, and you'll probably have heard about these assessment for learning with Stiggins, and assessment of learning is happening more at the state level or the summative level. You're just checking if they have met the standards. We'll be talking more about these maybe in another slide. So now that we've given you an overview of the type of assessment, the department within each of the accountability assessment, we have included a BAS model, which is a balanced assessment system for the teaching and the learning process, assisting all stakeholders in supporting student learning and helping students promote their own growth. Basically, we felt the need, it's to really standardize and make sure that each assessment had the same model, formative, interim, and summative, and it is true, but they all look different depending on the assessment. Like ELA and Math is smarter, but science or social study are Pearson, and their material are obviously different. So we felt the need of really having a model and show you what the resources are for each of these assessments. So let's look at what the ELA and Math balanced assessment system looks like and the resources. So in this model, we explore the different resources for each type of assessment. If you start with on the left side with the yellow block, you see that it's aligned foremost with the Common Core Math and ELA standard. And then we included links to really support and give you the resources So the first box at the bottom reviews the formative instructional assessment. If you were to click on the first formative, now this slideshow is just an image. So on the DOE website, you can see at the bottom, I put a note that the interactive balanced assessment system models, where you can click on all these links, are available on the DOE website. But for this one right now, it's not. So I'm going to bring over the one that is interactive so you can see what it looks like. Furthermore, if I have a problem, I already opened all of these. So for the formative, if you click on the formative, and you can see they're all interactive. If you click on the first one for formative, what kind of actionable feedback during instruction is? What is the formative assessment process? So this is when you click on the first one, you would get to this page, which is a Summative Balance website. And then you click on this one here, it says learn more about the formative assessment process. And then you would have the 4 attributes that are supporting the formative assessment process. I know that you probably do this in your classroom, but sometimes it's good to be reminded and to have that visual. So for any unit lesson or any planning, you always have to have determine the learning goals, so you clarify intended learning. Then after that, you would elicit evidence in any lessons plan you do or any activity you do in a classroom to get at the knowledge or the student level. And then you would be interpreting the evidence, and then you would be acting on the evidence. These are the 4 leaves or 4 pillars of the formative assessment process. And then the digital library would have a lot of resources about this process and activities that would actually show you what does it mean but to clarify intended learning, elicit evidence, interpret evidence, and act on evidence. So that would be the first one. I did not click on the standard because I think you can all click on that, but they're the common core standards for ELA and Math. So once you understood the formative assessment process, then you can actually have, a lot more activities. So we also provide a link for the educators. So actually, this one I forgot to show you. So you have formative assessment, our embedded instructional assessment. They assist with monitoring the student learning during a unit of instruction. They provide ongoing feedback for instructor to recognize student area of strengths and difficulties. For ELA and Math, to provide ongoing feedback, basically you can use airways in either the formative or into the interims. But the feedback is really going into, you're going to be into the digital library and you're going to be able to get some of the resources. They're usually formative assessment in a classroom or general low stakes. They're measuring students for progress toward a goal, not completion or final success of that goal. So it's a shorter unit, you're asking this like you're asking question. You're probing the student. Well, how did you do this? Show me another way. And then the teacher in a moment is able to act or correct or change direction in order to be able to help the student achieve in that lesson or in that class period, advance the student and not wait too long to come back and support student need. It's right in a moment. You're trying to, so it needs to have some good planning in advance. So as the formative, so we provide also a link for the educator classroom tools and resources that are available in the digital library and the Smarter Balance digital library. Now, remember that the digital library has formative lessons for grades K-12, K through 12, not just those grades level being evaluated. So if you click on this one, you can see this one is interactive. You would get to the page of the digital library. So you would have, hopefully all of you have an account by now, but if you don't have an account, you can sign up yourself. You do need to have a state or district. You need to have a district email account. You cannot use a personal account. And then you would be able, when you go into the digital library, you would have different type of playlist. You will have instructional playlist, the collection for instructional purposes. They have the connection playlist that support the student performance on the interim assessment. And then you have the professional learning playlist. There are resources that focus on educator professional development. So there are a lot of resources in the digital library. You just have to kind of narrow what you're looking for. So if you keep going down, you will be able to, we'll talk about again, but the connection playlist, you could pick a grade, the content, just big math, and you pick a grade, and then this will automatically bring you the playlist for that particular grade. This is a sample, but you can see there are all of these available for grade 6 math. You do the same thing for ELA, and that's will bring you all the different playlists available for ELA. So this is where you really want to kind of bookmark this page, because this is where you'll be able to access digital library, and that can be used for formative assessment. There is also another link for formative assessment, and this where brings you, there's a video. It's California, has a lot of resources, supply a lot of information and resources. So Summative Balance just posted them. But you can see this is probably the same thing as we just showed you about the leaf clover. Yeah. All right. So let's go back to this. So as the we also included a video on how to use a digital library. If you have used it a few years ago when it started in 2014, and you don't always use it now, a refresher would be to use this video. Or there's also a video of a lower school district who has extensively used the digital library resources and show you how they have used it. So it is an idea how you could use it. Or remember, start small. Don't start too big. Start with maybe one content or a few grades, or to explore the digital library, because it is very overwhelming if you try to do everything at once. So narrow it down, just do a couple of grades, and then get familiar with them, and work with a colleague in order to get to up the number of resources you want to look at. As the formative assessment lead into the green interim assessment section, by clicking on the actionable feedback link, you are shown 4 quick tips and tricks for using interim assessment. Let me see if I get it. All right. So this is what you would be seeing. Okay. So on this one, if you click on the actionable feedback link, you can see this is a very easy way of getting how do I use the IABs, because most of the district are school or charter school are using the IEBs. Remember, they'll focus content, usually one claim, no more than 2 or 3 targets, and they can give you information about where at the end of a unit, if you did a unit on research or a fraction, you can easily give these and see if it goes along with what you already collected in your instruction. See if it kind of goes together, goes along with it. So this is a very you can actually see that there's a quick tips and tricks for using the interim assessment. The graphic on the right of the web page can be made as a poster, whether it's a computer or paper pencil administered. So you could see that it's very easy to do. It's very simple to remember. The smaller website has a lot of information, a lot of web videos, and I would encourage you to click on them. You would see from videos from multiple states. And so it is applicable to us, but we like to involve more districts. If more districts are doing some good practices, have good practices about interims, and would like to share them and be showcased for Delaware on the website, we're more than welcome. Use your awareness to do this. By using these interim assessment, IB or ICA, students' strengths are identified as well as any area for improvement that can help drive instructional practices, since these interims are aligned to the content standard and developed based on the blueprint. There is a great flexibility in administration option that allows students the ability to review items in the same format as a summative assessment. So, as we discussed earlier, IBs can be used to guide instruction as well as in measuring student learning and growth. So if you were to click on this next, oops. All right, sorry. If you were to click on this one, on this link, this will send you to how teacher can use interim assessment data to improve instruction. And so it has different information like end scoring, like well, this year, most of the, for the interims, we are using artificial intelligence to score the IBs. For ELA, that's the focus, because students write a lot of responses, right? But typed the responses. For math, everything is machine scored, so there is no real score, except both ELA and math. PTs, performance tasks, have some open-ended questions that will need to be scored. So you can use hand scoring resources to see what it's expected of the student, what the performance would be expected of a student. There is a little bit, these are examples that demonstrate how these IBs help improving teaching. And so they're different. You can see this one's from Idaho, but they're from other California, and they can show you different. We'd like to showcase Delaware, so if you are willing to partner with us, that would be great. And then obviously you can go with the content. So if you click on this next link, sorry. Nope, I was on the right one. So if you click on the next one, this will bring you directly to the interim list. We have shared this information but it is good to be reminded this is the interim assessment. There's 3 reasons for using interim assessment. And the motto is to check, you reflect on what the student have done, and then you educators can connect with their colleagues to discuss and plan next step for the instruction and find resources in a digital library to enhance professional learning and improve student performance. So there are a plethora of resources of information. If you scroll down on the web page, again, you will have a description of what the ICAs are. They are very much the same content and report score and on the same scale as the summative assessment. You all know that. IBs are shorter, focus on small set of related concepts, and then all item or high quality test item. And they were all developed and field tested the same way, but some made it to the summative assessment item bank, and some made it to the interim assessment bank. And you have questions that can be machine score, like I mentioned. On the right side, you have other links for the interim assessment overview. If you click on that, you should already have seen this document that gives you an overview of what the interim assessment are. And of particular interest is this graphic that really puts in a visual of what the different assessments are and for what they should be used for. So the ICA is a broad range of target, multiple standards. The interim IBs are more targeted, and you could see some example. You could have reading just literary text for one IB, or for math, you can have operation algebraic thinking. So you can focus, it's refocus. And then starting this year, there will be another set of focus interim assessment block. These would be actually more focused than the IBs that we'll use the last few years. They would be actually just one claim again, but there would be very even more focus on it. So you could see for reading, you would just do text analysis and iterative text. And for math, you would only look within operation and algebraic thinking. You would only look at multiply and divide within 100. So if you scroll down, you would see for each grade, you would have the description of what each IB is and what each focus IB intend to assess. So I recommend that you really be familiar with this one so that you know which one should be selected, and should you decide to give them to your student within your district, you will all have a perfect plan, and then data will then be looked at. You can see that for this year, we have the high score. So it's grade 3 through 8 and high score. And then there is no, even though it says grade 9, 10, and 11, basically it's the same. There was no distinction between 9, 10, 11. It's just high score. It depends when you want to give it to your student. And then you can see there's a range of them. There's some new one. All right, if you go back to, this is the same thing for the other grade. And so by using this interim assessment, you get a greater flexibility and administration option. You can also see the type of item that you're getting. The nice thing about the type of item and format is that you will be, the student will not be surprised at the type of item they're getting on summative. So you can browse the test item, and then you can do a search. You can select, you can narrow down by the grade, by the content. You can pick the claim you want and automatically adjust. If you were to pick ELA, it would be these claims. I mean, these first 4 claims and the last 4 for math. And then you would select, so let's say I'm going to be biased. I'm just like problem solving, and then you can pick, there are 2 targets available for problem solving, and then you can pick one, or you can pick all. So if you pick all, it will bring you all the items. If you have to go down, and then these would be all the items available, sample items available for problem solving for grade 6. And then you, by clicking on them, this will bring up the item. And so it's a very wonderful way for students to be familiar with that. This is also available for parents, so parents can go on the Smarter website and they can get an idea about what it looks like. It tells you what the alignment is about the standards to give you an idea of the depth of knowledge. So this one is you solve unit rate problem. I won't read over it, but then I also have a target. So it's more specific about what to do. So there's a lot of information, and then you can see more like this. So then once you get one grade, you can actually almost see like a progression. You could see items that would be problem solving, that would be the previous grade, and then items of the same content, but as a progression, there's the next grade. So we had picked grade 6, problem solving, but you can look at grade 7 problem solving that would follow these. And then you would be selecting this as a performance task item. So you would be able to see it. You have to explore a little bit in order to be able to browse the test item. All right. So I want to go back to the connection playlist, because once you give the interim assessment, ICAs will give you a scale score and will give you a similar, will mirror the blueprint of the summative. But for the IABs, because they are a little chunk of items, you will be able to get a connection playlist associated with the level of the student. So as we discuss, the IABs can be used to give instruction as well as measuring student learning and growth. So the connection playlists are linked to the student performance on the interims, and they provide resources to the teachers to address some of the gaps students might have, and even include additional strategies that students can benefit from. So one of the benefit of the interims is that the teacher and district can gauge how students might be doing on the summative, since the items are on the same format, rigor, and on the same scale. And they can refer to, if you click here, you'll be able to get a little bit back about the SNEs. I don't know if you know, but these are educators, state network educators that work on these assessments, on these items, and they're the one generating these connection playlists. So they meet twice a year, and they write resources, and these resources are actually being used, vetted, reviewed, and they're being connected to the performance of a student. So let's see, you have videos of how these connection playlists are being used in other states, or how useful they are, and you can click on these interactive. All of these connection playlists are available in the digital library. So once you log into the digital library, then you get all the resources. If you look at this, let me see if I can click on this one. Yeah, it's going to give me the blueprint. So I want to go back. Once you go in a digital library, you'll be able to see one of these directly into, we're going a minute into the reporting, but you'll be able to see if a student receives let's say, for example, grade 4 listen and interpret, they only get above standard, they'll be able to link directly to these resources. They are not the only one, but these are the most appropriate ones that would benefit for the student that the teacher can use. So these would be the connection playlist. I want to show you how you get them directly. If you use the airways, so bear with me for a minute. I want it to be the portal. Okay. So you would click on the desktop portal. This is remember when you do desktop portal, you want to be using the Firefox or Google Chrome. Internet Explorer does not work well, but you would go to the Airways reporting, and then you sign in, and then you go to the desktop math and ELA, and then you would enter your role. All right, I'm gonna have an issue here. All right. I'll find another way of showing you this one. So this is with, I'm using Google Chrome here. You can see the rendering is much better. And then you click on Airways Reporting. And then I'm going to use a demo district account, but if I were to use any district, any of your district, I have access to all of them. Not that I do anything with it, not that I play with it, but I could look at it if there wasn't any questions. So let's look at the demo, DCAS demo district. And then, so these would be, we use these in order to test the system. But let's say we look at this particular one, grade 4 ELA brief write. There were 4 students who took it. You can see the distribution of the performance. 50% were below for that IEB. 25% were, that's 2 students. 1 student was at near and 1 student was above. If you click on that particular one, you will be able to get more information about the distribution of these students in the roster. If you want me to take one of your district, I can quickly, but for privacy, I don't really want to do that. So you would be able to see the name of the student, and you can see where each student was, this particular, you're below. So if you click, let's say, look at the first student that is below standard, you can see obviously overall, but then if you click on this particular one here, you can see the little stack icon on the upper left. If you click on this, this is going to be, because the student is below standard, you'll be able to connect directly, so you would have the answer key for that particular IEB brief write, but you can connect directly to the playlist in the digital library. So if this is not going to work, I'm going to be logging in a different way. Okay, just be okay. So this is going to be helping you to go directly from giving the interims, the IEBs or ICA, but IEBs will give you the connection playlist, not the ICA. And then this will be connecting directly from Airways. You would go directly into the digital library, but you could just look into the digital library and look at all these resources. And then if you look at, so for example, the particular student was below standard, and then you could see there was one particular resource here that you can click on. So the students below, they should be working on these to solidify the following skill, organizing narrative and information opinions. and then you can keep going down. But you can see you can have resources that will connect to that. If you click on that, it will bring you automatically the resource that is associated. It even tells you the author. And look at that. We have a Delaware team. This is wonderful. So you could see that we have sent SNEs and they have produced some resources. The reason I know they are Delaware team is because I work with them. But they have been very, very productive. So all of the information are in the digital library. As I mentioned earlier, you have instructional resources. And then you can go with the mathematical practices, the content area, or you can go with ELA and you can focus on any particular area you want. You have professional learning resources that you can work with in professional to do PD for mentoring and coaching. And then you have the whole entire battery of playlists. So you can select anything. You can go by grades if you want to. If you scroll down the top, it's the list of all of them. But you can filter and you can select just a particular grade. So let's say you didn't want to do, you only want one particular grade, you unclick them because by default, they all show up. But let's say you want to just do grade 5, it will narrow down to the grade 5. And it would see all of those resources are documents for grade 5. And so you can download them. You can even use them to do further. Let's do operation. Let's do fraction for grade 5. You'll bring it up. And again, you could see what the resources would be for students are in each of these levels. At near, these are the resources that would be recommended, but are not, required, but recommended. And then for below standard, this would be the nice resources that would help students obviously solidify on the gap on the concept they miss maybe. So again, you can click on these links. Everything is now. You can rate these if you like a resource. You can make it a favorite on the top, and then you can go back later on and you know that you have it. So you can add it here. You can create a selection. So when you go back, instead of researching again and refiltering, you already have a folder with your favorite for each of the grade or the resources that you're looking for. So there's a lot of flexibility and ease to use the system. And again, you can filter it down. All right. So the connection playlist is very important. Like I say, you will start small with this and then later on add to it. So from the classroom grain size, we move to the broader type of assessments. We have the summative assessment now. Obviously, we color-coded it. It's in blue. We all know that Delaware, since 2015, has administered the Smarter Balance Assessment in grades 3 through 8, usually toward the end of the school year. This is a cumulative assessment that evaluates the content standard. It's also a computer adaptive, which means that the difficulty of the question are adjusted throughout the assessment based on the student response. And students are asked to either explain, justify, reason, or solve problem, as well as communicate their reasoning and evidence effectively. It is also important for the student and the teacher to utilize the practice and training test, as I mentioned earlier, to see how the tests work and what to expect prior to the actual testing session. So you would be clicking on the practice and training test, and this will be sending you to the Smarter Balance practice test and sample question. You can explore others, but they are very much similar. So if you click on the Delaware, This is a little bit of a, you should be able to see, I have found that Google Chrome is a little bit more reliable than IE. But if you click on one of these, it should bring you to the sample items and the practice test. Let's see if we can get it somewhere else. Now, if you scroll down on a practice test and sample question, you will be also able to go back to the sample test or sample item. This is only for states who are not part of this consortium, but you can click on it and you could be able to access. Let's see if we can get Delaware here. Okay, there is maybe a glitch on it. I wonder if it's me off the computer. But if you keep going down, you'll be able to see the scoring guide for these items, for the sample items. So just to be familiar, you can select the grades, you can select the content, and you even have information about Braille. But if you have information about the calculator, at this point, everybody knows what they should be. If not, you click on them and this will give you an overview of what they look like. Remember, for math, we are using the decimal calculator. It seems to be widely used and easy to use. As you can see, students were comfortable with the test, especially after doing the practice test. These were very helpful. You can see a teacher from Delaware was quoted. So we do participate, and if you're interested to do that more, to participate in Smarter Balance activity, feel free to contact me. You have Annotated Anchors as well. This is very nice if you want to see what it looks like and what the expectations are. So you would click on each of them, and this will give you the annotated anchors, so the score, but also what the expectation based on a rubric, and what students actually receive. So this is very much like we have done in the past, where we had annotated responses when we had previous ones. So it is very nice, very well done. If we go, and then you can scroll down, you got it. It's nice. The Smarter Balance website sent you to a lot of different ways of doing it. Let's close this one because it doesn't work. All right. So the connection playlists are very important because they really help you. Once you give an interim, they really give you the connection, the resources that would go along and help support student needs or help them solidify at least the level they're at. This will be in conjunction or help you with what you're already doing in the classroom. All right, I'm going back to my model. You also will be able to look at the achievement level descriptors. These are Smarter Balance one. If you click on the reporting score tab for Smarter Balance, it would give you obviously the achievement level ranges. These are also on our website, but this is another way of getting them. And then you scroll down, you'll be able to look actually at the descriptors of these achievement level, and it would explain how this was done. Like one of the directors in Wisconsin was able to attend and did a little bit of a video explaining what the standard setting was about. But if you click on one of them, it will bring you the document. It is a pretty lengthy document, but it is really informative. And all right, it's still in the loop, and it's opening now. So it gives you an overview of what the descriptors are. It has a policy level, and it has a classroom level. Some of this information may be new to you, so don't feel too overwhelmed, but take it at one at a time. You have the policy, descriptors, the range descriptors, the threshold, and the reporting. So there are multiple, but if you keep going down, this is a nice graphic. All standards are linked to targets, which target bundled together goes to content category, and you can have one or two or one or more would be linking to the claim, and then the claim will give to the overall claim. So this is very useful. I wanted to show you this one. So for each grade, you will be able to see the level. So this is level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, and these are the descriptors of what a student as a continuum and progression is maybe moving from level 1 to level 2, what they should be able to demonstrate. And the same thing for ELA. And then you go for each of the topic. This is operational algebraic thinking. And then you could see the student should be able to multiply, and then they should be able to recall, and they should be able to apply, and then they should be able to use to multiply. So there's a nice progression. And that should be something that also you're probably familiar with whatever you're doing in your classroom as a progression to make sure your students are not staying just at level 1, but they have the opportunity to get to the level 4. All right, and then you keep going, and you can see it has all the content, and you go into geometry, but it would be the same for any content area. ELA Math. So summative assessment, and then we repeated the kind of question, which is very much the same as what you had, type of item and format here. We put it in both of them because, as I mentioned earlier, all items were developed the same way, the same criteria, and they were field tested the same way, but some item made it to the summative item pool and some item made it to the interim. And then a summative assessment will have some score report, and a state assessment is no exception. So a sample of the reports are available on the DOE website with parents' guide for each grade, which outline the content covered at each grade and what is expected in the next grade, with some resources for parents to help their child during the summer months to maintain or anticipate the content knowledge in the upcoming school year. So you can see this is a copy of the reports that you can share with anybody. And it has a family guide that explains what it is. All right, sorry, I missed it. Okay. And then these are the parents' guide, and that parents would receive with the parents' report. So grade 5 is for grade 4, anticipating in grade 5. So if you open it, you'll be able to see what the student learned in grade 4. It says preparing students for success in grade 5. So this is really about grade 4 and grade 5. It will tell you, it reminds you of the claims that students, and then this is what the student or what the child learned in grade 4, and then what they would be expected to learn in the next grade. So there's a nice progression for the parents to know what to expect. And then this is a nice, could be a discussion with teachers as well in conferences. Same thing for ELA, that has both ELA and math, and then how the parents can actually help their child at home. And then we give additional resources about, you're probably familiar with some of these. Some of them are Smarter Balance and others are not, like Learn, Be a Hero, has a lot of resources, a lot of tests or items that students can try. They're all interactive. And then you can see the same Khan Academy for math and ELA, but we have more for math, and then illustrative math for math, and then ELA has specific resources, so very friendly resources. So I wanted to show you, lastly, there's a link here. If you click on the top on the title of this slide, you'll see that you can actually, it will bring you to DOE website. And then once, this is the graphic I mentioned earlier, and then you can go, you can have a lot more resources. But if you click on the content area for ELA and math, this will bring it back to the page. And then you will be able to actually click on more about formative assessment, and then it will give you more, it will send you either link or information about what we have. We currently had a recording on grade on a high school. This is brand new. We will have the option to administer interim this year. And since they're new, we did a recording on that. You'll have a link to Smarter Test Blueprint. And we will be updating these eventually as we get more. There's a lot of new resources with Smaller Balance right now, so we're trying to update it as fast as we can. So this was an overview of all the resources that we have for formative, interim, and summative ELA and math. So we hoped you had a great understanding of the interconnected assessment that are used in the state of Delaware and how they're implemented to meet the needs of education stakeholders to best improve education practices. Also, by using or by balancing the use of different assessment for their intended purposes, that allows them to be assessment for learning, which is formative and interim and benchmark, versus assessment of learning, which are more of the summative assessment, which is at the end. We want to see where they are, what they learned. So the for learning is the action of learning in the moment. By using the information on the models, you will help support student learning and allow students to promote their own growth. We want to actually give you information about the following two webinars. Today we were doing just the content-specific assessment model, but on the 25th, we will be doing the reporting and data literacy for the ELA and math assessments or Smarter Balance. And then on December 11th, we will be connecting assessment to curriculum and instruction. This will be a collaboration with the curriculum office. So we are really much in sync together. And this is for the greater of Delaware and to support all its teachers. And then you can see the other content area are doing the same thing as ELA Math is doing today. So we also wanted to give you a description of what each webinar is about. Today was the balance assessment model, but we give you a very quick description of what the next two would be. It's the next one would be to provide participants with an understanding of the type of reports and available for each assessment and how to communicate the data. And then the last one is to be able to how the assessment connect to curriculum instruction. And they will need to be in tandem to increase student learning. So we also wanted to remind you that the department has launched 2 Schoology courses in effort to support ELA with assessment, literacy, and balance assessment. These are the courses available. There may be an overlap with what I talked about today, but there is no harm in that. So these are available already. You can sign up in PDMS, and you can take the courses. If you have any particular question related to any of these content area or modules, feel free to connect the respective associate. That will be your contact person and can provide you more information. Do we have any question before I close the webinar? Let me see. All right. Was this information useful? And can you can either put in the chat box, you can say yes or no, or need more information, so that will guide me.
Kathy,
Jennifer?
I'm sorry. Yeah. There's always just so much. Like, I guess when I'm trying to think about what to share with teachers first, I get a little overwhelmed.
Mm-hmm.
So would you be able to make, like the one slide that you worked off of today, would you be willing to share that with us to kind of maybe help me think about what I could share with my department?
You mean coming to your district and share with
well, I would always welcome you to do that, but I didn't know if you'd be able to share slide 10 with us, just because I kept making notes on that when I was looking.
Oh, yes. I'm sorry to say, but see at the bottom here, these are I posted on the DOE website.
Okay, so thank you.
That particular interview, let me see if I can show you you're on the DOE website. Let me see. So if you go on the DOE website under Instruction and Assessment, under Assessment, and then you go to pick ELA or Math. They're under each content. So you click on that and you go down, and you can see on the general overview, there's a ELA Math, literacy, well,
okay.
It's really balanced assessment system model. If you click on that, earlier I updated it and I hope that it worked. And so if you open the document, there should be exactly what I just presented you. Yeah. And these are interactive. So these are interactive, you can go. So you can use that and you can just play, not play, but I mean, you can show them that there's a lot of resources going with each type of assessment. And then, you know, is that what you were looking at? Is that what you wanted?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I think that'll help me focus.
Okay, wonderful. All right. Well, it looks like I'm glad you were on the call. You get a lot of information, or at least it reinforces maybe what you already knew. But I think we did a pretty good job putting this together, trying to make it simpler or more informative for everybody. Any other question? Any other question? Let's see. Yes. So like Laura said, yeah, the document, it's on the DOE website, and you have the link. These are active links. So if you click on it, you say Control and click on them. That will bring you directly to what I went over. So if one link is broken, let me know, and then we can, or if it's not, something is not working, just let me know. But I checked all of them earlier, and they were all working pretty well. Let me see. Yes. All right. Thank you very much all for attending tonight, this afternoon. And should you have any question about, any of the ELA or Math assessment, just feel free to call me or text or email me. Have a nice evening. Bye, everybody.